This episode of the Lawyers Hip Hop Happy Hour is sponsored by the law offices of Alfred Guillaume III, a boutique criminal defense firm located in Washington, D.C. The firm specializes in defending federal criminal cases. You can learn more about the firm by visiting our website at guillaumelaw.com. That's GUILLAUME law.com. Welcome to the Lawyers Hip Hop Happy Hour. This month's episode features an interview with Attorney Marguerite Lanaux, the District Public Defender for the City of Baltimore. Ms. Lanaux is the lead attorney for the Public Defender's Office in Baltimore City. If it's a criminal case, large or small, she's responsible for managing all the attorneys in that office. She and I discussed her responsibilities, her career path, and the somewhat untraditional trajectory that brought her to this very important position. Now, I've known Marguerite for over 20 years. She and I share a lot in common, including a similar sense of humor, although you're going to have to listen to the interview to determine which of us is funnier. And I think you already know the answer to that question. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. We've got a lot to discuss. Welcome to another episode of the Lawyers Hip Hop Happy Hour. Today, I am honored to host my good friend of many years ago, Attorney Marguerite Lanaux, the Deputy Public Defender for the City of Baltimore. Did I get it right? The District?
Negative.
What is it?
I am the District Public Defender. Put some respect on
Put some respect.
name.
I knew that we had just had that joke off camera, and I was just giving you a hard time.
That's okay.
You are the number one public defender for the entire city of Baltimore. I'm so honored and happy to have you here. You're also my friend of 20 plus years ago.
Woo!
It's been a while. And
We met when we were toddlers.
Now we're still toddlers. Except I have no hair and I have a gray beard. But other than that, I'm
still the same.
I'm still a toddler.
Yeah.
You're looking very nice today.
Why, thank you.
Yes,
Thank
I see.
you.
Before we even get started, we have to go there. You are what's known on the street as a double bison.
Yes, sir.
HU.
You know.
And you went to law school and undergrad at Howard University.
I did. Yes.
A native of Long Island, New York.
That's me.
And I would love to talk to you about your current job, your career path. I know it well. I think it's be very interesting for our listeners to hear how you arrived to your current position in your legal life and what your future plans are. And I'm very excited to talk about this. So I'm going to get started from the beginning. We met in law school circa 2002. Mm-hmm. I remember coming up to you at an event and saying, hello. I think I just said hello.
Yeah, and you tried to speak Portuguese to me.
Oh, I did not try to speak
Yes, you absolutely
Portuguese.
did. And I was like, what are we doing here?
Why would I try to?
It was at the pinning ceremony. You came up and
Right.
you said hello and said something else. And it was like, okay.
I don't remember that exactly that way.
Yeah.
But it was the pinning ceremony. I can see it in my mind.
Yep.
And I remember you giving me this smart look like you always do, like kind of like you're doing now.
Yeah. That's true. That's true.
Like, what is this guy?
Yeah.
And we became the best of friends. We were neighbors
Yes.
in law school
You
for
lived
3 years.
2 floors down from me, right?
Yeah, 2 or I don't remember, but it was close.
1132A. What were you?
1029A.
Yeah,
One floor down.
Yeah.
Yep.
Kinda like
Shout out to
living
the
single.
Georgian
The
Towers.
Georgian Towers.
Yes.
That dump.
It was a dump. Yeah, that's why we were living there, actually, because that's all we could afford at the time.
Correct. It was a good place to live.
It was a
though.
good time. It was a great time. So we start from the beginning. Howard University. You're from Long Island, New York. That's where you're born and raised.
Yes, actually, I was born in Brooklyn.
Born in Brooklyn, like Eddie Murphy. I didn't know that. He's the same way. Born in Brooklyn and moved to Long Island.
Yes, Eddie Murphy didn't live very far from me, but obviously he was not there when I was growing up because he's much older than
Much
I am.
older. Yeah. About 2 years older, right? Than you.
I was born in Brooklyn. My family moved to Long Island shortly after when I was about 3, so I don't really remember living in Brooklyn, but all of my family is still in Brooklyn.
Nice. New York City in the house. Represent my favorite place in the world, other than my own city, of course. But we also have that connection.
We do.
Because your father, rest in peace, was a New Orleans man.
Yes.
Like myself.
Yep. Yep. My dad is from Louisiana, born and raised between Bay St. Louis and which is Mississippi, not technically Louisiana, but feels
close.
Like New Orleans.
But
anyway.
lived in New Orleans as well.
Yep, lived in New Orleans. Mm-hmm.
And your last name is French, just like mine, Lanaux.
I think that's why you came over to me.
Probably
you were
so.
like, Lanaux, and I believe you said something like thinking I would know whatever language you were speaking.
That wasn't Portuguese.
And I looked at you like, English. I speak English. Very black. One language.
So we spent 3 years together. We've been together ever since.
We have.
And currently, well, I'm a criminal defense attorney, and so are you.
Yes.
But you're also in charge of a lot of other criminal defense attorneys.
I am.
You are in charge of the entire city of Baltimore and the public defender's office, and we'll talk about that, how you got to that position. But, I want to talk about your path to get there, because I know you did not have a linear path in the law in your career. Can we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I did. I did not have a linear path. That's a very
and many people do not.
Law school is one of those. So, well, we got to take it back to undergrad.
Take it back.
I was talking about this to somebody the other day. I think we have experienced the most natural disasters and tragedies and all sorts of things of any generation.
Our generation
our
X.
generation. So I was the class that graduated right after September 11th. So I am class of 2002 from undergrad. So in the midst of my senior year of college, when I'm thinking, Mike, I'm just going to hang out, have fun, and then figure out life when I'm done, the World Trade Center went down. And I remember one of my professors who was an attorney coming in and saying, you guys need to realize that the world is about to be different. If you thought that you were just going to get a job after college, you need to rethink that, because people are going to be competing for jobs in the market because they're going to be displaced.
That was a crazy time.
From their jobs. And he said, if you were thinking about going to law school, graduate school, now is the time to do it. Don't put it off. So me and my naivete was like, just go to law school.
So you went straight from law school from undergrad. I took 3 years off.
Undergrad to law school, and it was a thought, but it wasn't a plan. It was just kind of something I thought about I could do. And so
you went to Howard.
I did. I went to Howard for undergrad and for law school. I studied for the LSAT with some friends, took the test, sent the scores, and I said where I get accepted is where I'm going to go. And I ended up at Howard, and it was the best decision that I've made.
Best decision ever. I say it all the time.
100%.
Otherwise, we would not even know each other.
We wouldn't know each other. I wouldn't actually have the opportunity I have now. My current job is from being a Hustle alum. So it has opened many doors.
Howard is just that magical place. But it sounds like at the time when you were taking the LSAT and doing all that, you weren't necessarily concerned about Howard, or maybe you were taking it for granted. You just were like, I'll just go to law school in general.
Oh, I didn't want to stay at Howard. I absolutely wanted to leave D.C. The old D.C., shout out to nowadays. I was ready to leave D.C. As a New Yorker, when I came here, I'm like, D.C. is whack.
Oh, my God. You're one of those.
You can't get anything to eat after midnight. This is crazy.
That wasn't quite true, but okay.
You can't get your hair done for $20. Like, all of the things that I had in New York, I came here. I'm like, what are these people doing? They had crazy socks on. They have long R's, all of it. I was ready to go. And I applied to Howard as my safe school. And I got accepted, and I don't know, there was a handwritten note on the acceptance letter, and it said, something to the effect of, we take care of our own. And
what? That's amazing. I never knew that.
Dean Sherrod was the dean of admissions.
Shout out to Dean Sherrod.
Yep.
Absolutely. She was a dean when we were our first year of law school. She's amazing.
Yep. And I'll never forget receiving that and just thinking, like, I don't think that everybody gets
I sure didn't get it.
We take care of our own. And I made the decision to stay in D.C. and go to Howard. And the same professor, Professor Colvin, it's like, you of all people who talk about leaving D.C. every day, you're going to stay here? I said, yep, I'm going to stay. And again, best decision I made.
Best decision. And that's funny, because your story, my story, a little bit different. The time that I applied to law school, I desperately wanted to come to Howard. I desperately wanted to be in this environment, and I knew about the school's reputation, but I didn't really know a whole lot other than it's like the Mecca, right? That's all I knew. And I applied. I had a bad experience in graduate school. I was in New Orleans. I was at Tulane University. I said, I need a change. applied to Howard. I got into Howard, and my life's trajectory, success, and everything else has been defined from that decision. It was an awesome decision that I made, if I do say so myself.
Yep. And there was one other influence with my decision to go to Howard. I have a cousin who went to Harvard for law school, and her advice was, think about what you want to do, the type of life you want to live when you're done with law school. And, you know, at the time, 22, 23, I'm like, what is she talking about? The type of life you want to live. And she said, look at the cost of going to law school and think about what that's going to mean for you for the type of jobs you may have to accept when you graduate to pay back those loans.
Right, the loans are something else.
And so that was another factor for me, is that looking at it, I thought, I don't want to come out with a bunch of loans and have to be tied to working in corporate law or big firm, because I didn't know a lot, but I knew that was not going to be for me to be in big law. Always knew that.
But also, besides that, it's the fact that our alumni, our sense of our bond, I guess, is so strong.
Yep.
I cannot imagine going anywhere else. Now, obviously, Harvard, Yale, these type of places, they're at the top of the food chain. It's the best law schools in the country, quote unquote. But for African Americans, sometimes the quote unquote best law school may not fit for them. And I didn't have the option to go to Harvard. And if I did, I don't know what I would have done. But
I didn't pursue going to Harvard, so I won't say I didn't have the option, because I wasn't on the agenda for me. But I will tell you, I will put any Howard trained lawyer against any Harvard lawyer any day, and we will run circles around them. I know this because I deal with Harvard trained lawyers. We have a different way of thinking. We have a different grit. We have a different experience, and those things matter in the practice, real lawyers.
The practice of law. And we got the best training at the best school ever.
So now that we've done this entire infomercial for Howard.
Correct. Can they send me a check?
Send me a check.
I want my kids to go there. I need some tuition assistance at some point. I mean, I need something, okay? But no, it's you're not the first. You're not going to be the last guest from Howard in person that has a similar type of story. It's an amazing institution with just a storied history. And we were so blessed to be. We found each other.
We had the best class
by mistake. Well, we definitely had the best class.
We had the best class of all Howard University classes
in the history of the world.
The history of the entire world. We have the best class.
2005. Keep it live, baby. We did all the way live. Yeah, it's not even a competition. We already know that.
No,
we're good. But after law school, I'll tell you about myself. Like, I didn't have the option to go into big law. I've never had that option. That was only the...
Don't sell yourself short.
Well, no, not that I couldn't do it, and I'm glad I did what I did. But at the time, I was not in the top 25% of the class. Now, I think of two people right now. I'm not going to say their names, but they know who they are, and you know who they are too. They probably would tell you the same thing. These two people from our class who are self-made, who, hey, C's get degrees, baby. And look, these guys are millionaires, literally millionaires, and some of the most powerful lawyers in the United States. And I don't know if they got C's or not. I was just joking. I know one of them got C's, but okay, whatever.
Shade.
Listen,
we graduated. Ain't nobody checking transcripts.
But I didn't have it was only those select group of people that were being chosen for those jobs. So I was a judicial law clerk, and I made less than $40,000 a year with $200,000 in debt when I graduated. And then I was a prosecutor after that, making very little money, et cetera, et cetera. So everybody's road is different. I think I'm doing okay now. I'm not making millions like them, but I'm happy. I'm good. I'm found my life's calling. But I know you had a different trajectory as well. You were not in corporate law and in the top part of our class.
No, I wasn't. And let's be clear, I had no job upon graduation.
Yeah, let's talk, because people need to hear
that. No job, no options, no nothing. Had no idea what I was
And that will be the case for many law students, no matter where they graduate, whether it's Harvard, Howard, wherever.
Correct. And my two best friends at the time graduating law school, both had big firm jobs, like getting everything paid for, flown out.
Right. Those were hard years.
No worries, no concerns. And I'm trying to figure out, how I'm going to pay my rent like, where am I going? Where am I going to live? Am I going back to my parents' house to live on their couch? And that was something that I did not want to do, not because, of shame or just not wanting to be at home. My mom didn't live in New York anymore. She lived in Hampton, and I had no desire to go to Hampton, Virginia. So I made the decision to go to Chicago, take the Illinois bar.
Why Chicago?
My oldest sister was living in Chicago at the time, and one of my best friends, who's still my best friend, Tigra, was going to a firm in Chicago. Of course, you're my other best friend, right? Tigra was going to a firm in Chicago, and so I said, well, I'm going to Chicago too, because my sister knows some people. I'm gonna figure it out when I get there. And I studied for the bar. I got there, and I was miserable. The bar was hard.
Bar is hard.
Not knowing what you're gonna do.
Every bar is hard.
The bar has even changed now, but that's a whole different story. Just the stress and the anxiety of not knowing what you're going to do. And one thing I tell young attorneys often when I speak to them is that, the challenge of being a lawyer is people always expect you to be smart, and they expect you to know things, and they expect you to have it all figured out. And to not have that is that stare back, when people are looking at you and you're looking at them like, I don't have anything to say. I don't know what you want me to say. I feel all of these expectations. I'm very blessed to have a family who didn't put those expectations on me to make a lot of money, to pull the family out of whatever. That wasn't my situation. But I went to Chicago, took the bar. After I took the bar, I went and stayed with my other sister who was living in Orlando at the time a little bit. Three girls,
great family,
2 sisters, best friends. And then an opportunity presented itself to coach lacrosse at Howard University.
So you went from law school to coaching a sport at your alma mater.
Correct. To coaching a sport at my alma mater.
Well, you're a lacrosse player, right?
I am a lacrosse player. Lacrosse brought me to Howard in undergrad. And so when the opportunity presented itself to coach my team, I jumped at it.
Right. That's kind of a dream job, actually.
It was. And so I put the law to the side. And in my mind, I thought, if I never practice law, I'll be fine.
So
I won't care.
Going to law school, you graduated, you passed the bar, you can practice law, and you're coaching lacrosse.
Correct.
And you're alma mater.
Correct.
So were you happy at that time?
I'm coaching lacrosse part-time, and I'm doing contract work, document review part-time as well. Was I happy at the time? I mean, those were the best years of my life.
Yeah, we were hanging out tough.
Let's be clear. Whether I thought I was happy or not, you and me were hanging out tough at that time. We didn't have any money.
Nope.
We didn't have
no money.
No money. We had some of the
shout out to having no money, man.
Man, no money, no problems, right?
Seriously.
Biggie said it.
No
money,
kids,
no problems. Right.
No nothing.
No responsibility. I mean,
and DC is pretty cool. I love DC.
We had a good time.
Good time.
If I could go back to the early 2000s, take me there. So was I happy? I mean, I wasn't happy with having figured out my life because I knew that was not my life's plan. Right. I wasn't landing at being a lacrosse coach indefinitely. But I was happy I felt that I could do what I want. Right. I felt I was grown.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I was working as a lawyer, but I wasn't making a lot of money, but I was getting good experience. But, everybody's path is different. And first of all, money isn't everything. It's cracked up to be.
It's not. And
it's nice to have, but at the same time, like you say, more money, more problems.
And I came from a situation growing up where I didn't worry about money. I'm very fortunate. People always kind of look at me crazy when I say this, but though I thought we were poor growing up, I had everything that I needed, and we weren't poor. Let's be clear. But by no stretch of the imagination, we were very middle class, if not upper middle class. And so I just had no concept of money. So it just didn't really occur to me that I needed to worry about making a lot of money.
Right.
And I know that people hear that and they're like, what do you mean you need to worry about making a lot? I had everything I needed. There was never a time where I needed something or I wanted something and I couldn't go to someone in my family or get it. So I was content. And so I was doing, coaching lacrosse, doing contract work. At some point, I actually started working for the general counsel's office at Howard as a law clerk through a Howard alum, another friend, Adana.
So Howard takes care of its own.
Howard takes care of its own. So I started to get some legal experience. And then I made the decision to go back to Chicago because I
seem to remember, I was thinking about that before you came in. I remember you were here and then you left for a time.
Yep, I left. It was kind of just like, I'm here. I was doing things. And then one day I was like, I'm going to move back to Chicago. And I packed up everything I had. My dog, may she rest in peace, London. We went back to Chicago, and I hated it. I hated Chicago.
It wasn't for you.
It's not for me. Unpopular opinion. It's cold.
It's very cold.
The Midwest is different than the East Coast.
You born in New York?
East Coast girl. So Chicago wasn't for me. I tried it 18 months, didn't survive. Couldn't get the waterproof boots. You gotta have like waterproof clothes when you live in these places. Lived there. Yeah, you can't have like Uggs that don't.
So you're a very stylish person. Let me just say.
Thank you. It just wasn't for me. So I came back to this area. Came back to DC. And at that time, I was working for Kaplan. So that was right around, that was in 2008. I remember,
I had forgotten that too. So you're working at Kaplan, which is a
bar review.
Yep,
course. They bought out PMBR. So
I haven't heard that name in a while.
Yeah, the bar review we all took. Before I came back, I actually made a pit stop and I think this is important to share. I made a pit stop at my mom's house. I was living on my mom's couch for a while
So you've got a law degree. Passed the bar. You could be making hundreds of thousands of dollars. And our friends were making hundreds of thousands of dollars at the time. Our contemporaries.
Yep. And I'm literally sleeping on my mother's.
I was making nothing,
my mom's
pennies.
House,
but I was working as a lawyer, but making pennies.
I never forget this. I had this commitment to wearing like leggings and white t-shirts every day. Like every day. Well, because it was just this period of like solemnness that I was going through where I was just trying to figure it out and I didn't care. And so it was just like whatever's easy. I started working out again, started just getting myself back together. And I prayed a lot. And God brought me back to this area, started working for Kaplan. It was, again, having the most fun of my life. Had the best apartment on Park Road in Columbia Heights.
Shout out to Columbia Heights, baby.
Hanging out, man, had a good time. It was a good time. And I've had a lot of failure in life. And this was a time that I came back and there was success and then there was failure and I lost my job at Kaplan. And I will never forget, you were deciding to leave the prosecutor's office at that time. And I will never forget thinking, like, I want to be in a position where I am in control of my life and I do not have to worry about finding a job or working for someone. What could I do? And it was like, I'm a lawyer. What do you mean, what can I do?
I went to Howard.
I went to Howard. We have the one profession where you can always hang out your own shingle and make it work. But I was not barred in Maryland. So I decided to take the bar. I had taken the bar once in Maryland, didn't pass. Shout out to all those non-first-time bar passers. I'm one. Passed the bar in Illinois on the first time, did not pass in Maryland on the first time. So I decided to take the bar. Again, working for Kaplan, so I got that free bar review course.
Yeah. Hey. Get it how you live, baby.
Right. And I studied for the bar. I literally was going to the public library to study for the bar, and I was in the bathroom with homeless people while I was studying for the bar. You want to talk about a humbling experience? You go to use the bathroom
this is
while
real. This
somebody
is real life, though. This is what people need to hear.
Taking
Law
a shower.
students need to hear this.
Taking a shower in the
bathroom. Because it has a happy ending.
And you're like, hey girl, like life has got us both here. Hope we figure this out. So I took the bar, passed the bar that time. And then as soon as I passed, I, call everybody in the world. One of those people I talked to was you. And you were like, cool. Are you admitted? Because I need somebody to cover cases for me.
I remember.
And this is how I was introduced to the world of criminal law, as I was covering cases for none other than Alfred Guillaume III.
You did a good job too.
Thank you.
And then you left me very shortly after.
Well, I started covering cases for you and I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. I get it. I related to the clients in so many ways. I think mostly because I had a lot of failures in life. Even through my success, I've had failures.
You're being humble. You have failures. We all have failures. But you also had lots of successes.
I did have a lot of successes, but I guess the point is that I relate to my clients because just one decision or one bad move is what brings a lot of people to stand at a trial table with me. And so I could understand where somebody wants to be doing something different and just needs the opportunity for somebody to actually help them through that one situation that they're in, which is why I truly related and found my space in public defense. But I wouldn't have gotten there had I have not gone through everything else that I went through.
Correct. And then you, as I recall, you went to the public defender's office after you left me, and you were like a line attorney.
No. Don't forget. So I was covering cases, making $50 a case.
Was that from me?
50. Hell yeah, it was from you. $50.
That's not true.
Bet $50 a case. I could do more than one case in a day. You got to remember, I was in the bathroom, the public library bathroom with homeless people. So when I'm making $50 a case, I'm like, cool. Let me add this.
$50 a case.
God is my witness. Yes, it was $50, but nonetheless, and it's one attorney who still owes me $50. You know who you are. You know who you are.
I always paid.
Alfred always paid. Your other people paid, but it was one that y'all set me up. I'll tell you off camera who it is, because y'all were like, oh, I mean, he's cool, but make sure you get your money. Anyway, so I was covering cases for you, and then I volunteered at the public defender's office to get more experience. So I was working unpaid again. And you know, I got
Did it offer medical insurance at least?
Nothing.
I didn't offer that.
Not
either.
even parking. No parking. No medical insurance. No nothing. God. So now I got two. I'm barred in 2 states.
Right. You have a license to practice law in 2 states.
I have a license to practice law in 2 states, and I'm literally working for nothing and for $50 a case covering.
I'm
cases.
Sure I paid more. This is for content.
God, you did not. What?
Right.
Well, anyway, you paid me $50.
Because that's a shame if that's true.
You set the bar of what I was charging other people to cover cases. Call Cal. Get him on the phone.
Shout out to my main man, Cal.
So I volunteered, and through volunteering is how I ended up getting picked up as a line attorney with the public defender's office, and that's when I left you, because I could no longer cover your $50 cases. Once I was a full-time attorney with the public defender's office, but I ended up starting in Baltimore because I was covering cases for you, and you were mostly handling cases in Baltimore.
At that time, I was in Baltimore, right?
Which was also the best thing that could have happened to me, because Baltimore is a great city.
Great training ground. Great
city. So I started in Baltimore. I was there for 3 years, and I just flourished. I mean, and it was a flourish because winning cases, just learning the ropes. And I flourished because I enjoy the work.
The work is amazing. Yeah. We have so many stories.
Yeah.
I know you have tons. I have tons. And you worked. Now I remember what happened to you. If I'm not incorrect, you went from Baltimore to another office in the public defender's office in Prince George's County, which is a suburb of Washington, D.C.
Yep.
You were there for a while, and then you were tapped to become the head of the entire public defender's office in Baltimore, which is crazy.
Yep.
A job that you've never had an administrative type of job. So you were talking about going to homeless people in the bathroom with homeless people. You're now in charge of the entire office. How many attorneys are you in charge of right now?
So we have almost 100, a little over 100 attorneys.
Right. So you have 100 attorneys looking at you for what to do.
And we're understaffed. So really, I should be supervising more, like a little.
Hey, if anybody listening to this, you guys can apply to be a assistant public defender. Tell Attorney Lanaux that you saw her on this podcast, she'll hire you, okay? Right? That's how that works.
Right. Absolutely.
That's all it takes.
Yeah, so we have just somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 attorneys. And then we have all of the staff, because, the public defender's office does not function without its core staff.
Investigators,
secretaries, receptionists.
They make our job so much easier.
You paralegals,
right?
Everybody, right? Office managers.
And it all falls on you. Everybody looks at you.
And everybody looks at me and expects me to have an answer, which is ironic, because it takes me back to one of the first things I said, is that when you get a law degree and people hear you're a lawyer, they look at you and they expect you to have an answer. So,
Right.
You are correct. I was a supervisor in Prince George's County for about a year before I was tapped to take this job. I didn't really have a formal process that I went through for this, but the entire time that I was working in Baltimore was the process. I did not know I was being interviewed for this job.
On the job training, that's how we do.
From the time I started until the time I left. And the public defender for the state of Maryland, Natasha Artigue, was a supervisor in Baltimore City that I interacted with when I was working there, and I made a good impression. Not because I was trying to make a good impression, but because you got to have pride in what you do.
Do what you do.
Yep. And so just doing what I do.
Also a Howard alum, if I recall.
Also a Howard Law alum. Also from Long Island.
I didn't know she was from Long Island.
Yep, she is from Long Island.
Okay. A little nepotism there.
No nepotism. Hard work pays off.
Yeah. Hey, look, I'm just giving you a hard time. I already know how you operate.
Yeah. So I ended up back in Baltimore City, which this opportunity came at a very interesting time in my life. When I started out with the public defenders, I was single.
Now you're a mom.
No children. Could move freely. Well, in some ways I could, because I was taking care of my dad at that time. So I didn't have any children, but I did have responsibilities for being the primary caretaker of my dad. But when I was tapped to come back, I had a 2-year-old, a husband, and we were in the process of moving.
There's a lot going on.
So, yeah. So, I was like, sure, why not?
That kind of brings me to another point. And I feel like I should ask this question more to my male guests, but I don't. I really kind of get on myself about that. But I'm going to ask you anyway. Mm-hmm. Being a woman practicing law is a male-dominated profession. Mm-hmm. In any sector you go to, the public sector, the private sector, is dominated by men, typically white men. How do you feel as a African-American woman in this profession? Or do you feel any kind of way at all? I mean, do you have any thoughts about that?
So this area is, I think we have a skewed perspective in some ways. We have the benefit of a skewed, because, regardless of what it has turned into, DC, Maryland, Virginia, these areas are black areas, right?
Like, a lot of black,
you have a high number of highly educated black professionals in this area. And so, I've had the privilege of working in 2 spaces where a number of judges the bench is black. Right. Like,
Right. The 2 places you work, there's a majority black county, a majority black city.
Correct.
And the bench reflects that. The bench meaning the judges that are in charge of those places.
Right. And the people in positions of authority have also been black. And so, I have experience, but my experience has been different. Now, with that said, you still got a number of white men who behind the scenes or in front of the scenes run things. And so how does that play out for me? I grew up in Long Island, so I've known how to play this game for a very long time.
So where you lived in Long Island, was the majority black area or not?
The town I grew up in was very diverse, and so it was...
Roosevelt? Is that
No, I am not Eddie Murphy.
I thought you were Eddie Murphy.
Really?
I got really excited.
That is your favorite.
I just got excited. Shout out to Eddie Murphy.
Eddie Murphy, if you're watching, please send him something.
Come on the show, man.
Oh my God.
I've been rocking with him since I was a kid.
Eddie Murphy came on this show, you wouldn't know what to do with yourself.
Correct.
Yep. Anyway, no, I'm not from Roosevelt. That's like asking somebody from New Orleans if they're from like
Tennessee or something.
No, I am from Freeport, Port Knox, all day long.
All day, baby. Let's go. Freeport.
You've never been there.
That's all right. Freeport in the building.
Oh gosh, this is why we're friends. So it was very diverse, but I put it like this: my job in high school was working at a kosher deli.
Nice.
So
you got some experience with cultures other than your own.
Exactly. And I thought nothing of the fact that I was working at a kosher. For those people who may not know, a kosher deli is a Jewish deli, right? Like it is, Jewish people are kosher, or they can be kosher. I thought nothing of working at a kosher deli. That was just the experience I had. So I learned how to navigate different spaces and diversity at an early age. And so I have this unique ability to interact with white men in a way that I don't think that every Black woman
would,
necessarily has. And it's funny because I was teaching a not a class, but we'll call it a class for purposes of this podcast, on jury selection. And I was talking about, like, you've got to figure out who your people are as the lawyer.
It's one of my favorite parts of this job.
Everybody doesn't like you, right? Like, you're going to have certain people who don't like you. And it was hard for me to realize that, like, middle-aged Black women are not...
Interesting.
That's not my jury pool. Like, those are
that's my wheelhouse, baby.
Those are my, like, they're
I don't know, Marguerite. I think maybe they...
No. I realize now that I've had some time to step away from it, that in Baltimore City, the prosecutor's Black, the judge may be Black, I'm Black.
So race is kind of taken out of the equation,
Race is taken out of the equation. And so it's not just that, like, I'm identifying with you just because you're a Black woman like me, because there's other
Everybody's
Black women.
Black.
Exactly. So I realized that middle-aged Black women were not, and no shade to middle-aged Black women, but weren't my demographic, and that...
Middle-aged Black women, I love y'all. Okay, just so you know.
You better love them. All day, you better love. Say it again.
Middle age, or whatever kind of age. Not too young. Okay, let me listen.
All right. Calm down. Okay.
I mean,
Yeah. Right. But I realized that, like, white men, I knew how to persuade, and
Interesting. You kind of identified that, and so for people who may not know exactly what we're talking about, when you go to trial. Any kind of trial, you have to select a jury from the citizens of whatever jurisdiction that you're in. And it's totally random, right? Mm-hmm. You don't know who you're going to get, who's going to walk in that door.
Maryland has the worst jury selection process.
It's pretty bad. Yep. Yeah. DC is not far behind. It's a little bit better, but it's not far behind. And they come in, and it's numbers 1 through whatever, and you got to pick 12 people. You, the other lawyer, and the two of you come together and figuring out who these 12 people are going to be and what kind of jury you're going to end up with is anybody's guess. But you got to identify, like you say, certain people, and you'll be surprised by, I'm sure you have these experiences as well.
Oh, I was very surprised when I was like, I'm you. Like, it's not like y'all don't love me, because y'all would mean that I'm not part of this. They may not love your client, though, right?
That's another thing.
That's what I've realized. It wasn't me. It was my client, or it's the idea of my client. And,
what they think that person did or didn't do.
Correct. And Black women hold people to account. And I will never fault Black women for holding people to account, because we need to hold people to account. However, in the situations that I'm in, I need y'all
some slack, yo.
I need y'all to hold him to account after you say not guilty. Not. I need you to remember all the things that happened that led this person to this space and say not guilty. Not hold him to account and think that the system is going to do anything to help, because it absolutely does not. Ever. Never, ever.
Well, let me, now we're kind of talking about the work that you do and the cases that you've had throughout the years. Can you think of any case in particular that you have that has stuck with you? Any story? People love stories about a particular case.
I've had many cases that have stuck with me. And, I have to be careful about the cases.
Without using anybody's names or anything like that.
The cases that have stuck most with me are the ones involving clients who have mental health issues. And not the mental health that you think about, like, the unfortunate people you see walking on the street that are just in another world altogether. I'm talking about the acute, diagnosed mental health or the just environmental impacts that people have experienced that have led them into situations. So, I have one client in particular that I always think about who had every good intention in the world, just terrible life, terrible scenarios, terrible things. But I'll tell you one client that has always stuck with me is I had a client who I was talking to. I was doing an interview, and it was a gun case. And so, not the end of the world, but one of the issues in the case was whether or not it was his room. And so I asked him. They found
a gun in this person's room. They charged him with it.
Yep. So they find the gun in the house. It's in a room, and they charged the client with the gun. And one of the things I asked him is where his bed was in the room. And he told me, he just chuckled. And I'm like, where do you sleep? He said, I don't have a bed. And it just stuck with me because to ask a person where they sleep or where their bed is presumes that everybody has a bed.
Right.
It presumes that everybody has a place to sleep in a home. And, these are the things that I learned in this work, is that you don't know what people are experiencing behind closed doors.
And what causes them to be put in certain situations.
Correct.
And the thing about the public defender's office nationwide, public defenders, many people, not many people, but certain people give public defenders a bad rap, right? Mm-hmm. And, I can say with 100% certainty that attorneys in the public defender's office across the board are some of the best trained, most experienced attorneys that out there. Why they get a bad rap, I have no idea. I mean, I have some idea, but people have misconceptions about. But, just think about it. Don't you want someone who is literally in front of the same judges and the same lawyers every day, day in and day out, that knows the nuances of whatever court you're in? If I have a question, when I go to a particular court that I may not be familiar with, the first person I seek out is a public defender, and I ask them about what about this judge? What about this prosecutor? What can you tell me? And I've never been led astray. And it amazes me that clients come to me and they'll say, I've actually turned clients away that want to pay me good money. And I'll say, you need to stick with the public defender because there's nothing that they're doing that I would do differently.
We have a conversation about this, a whole other show just about this. Something that people don't realize, I think, for good reason, because you haven't been in the situation, is that defending a criminal case, like a very serious criminal case, is very expensive.
It's extremely expensive. Oh my God.
And not just, people think about paying the lawyer. That's the least of your worries.
Investigators.
You gotta get investigators, experts, doctors,
exactly.
All of those things that, and now you got all of this technology, so you don't just need the experts of the
and your office can provide those things.
We pay for that, right? So you don't just get the lawyer, you get everything that comes along with it, the forensic mental health, the doctors.
Absolutely.
All of those things.
And when you come to me, you have to pay me, and then I have to charge for whatever my providers charge.
Right.
So if you don't have enough money, that's what I'm saying. I've turned people away. Said you can't afford this.
Correct.
Stick with what you got.
Correct. Because people think that they pay the lawyer, and unfortunately, I mean, you're good. You're a honest person to turn them away, because there are lawyers who will take the money just for the fee of their fee,
right,
and then just try the case without all of the things that are needed, and then that's where we see all of these wrongful convictions for or ineffective assistance of counsel, or all of the things that it's so hard to get out of the criminal system after you've been convicted. So
right. It is extremely difficult.
It's hard.
Impossible, one would say.
It's hard to get out of it once you've been charged. It's even more impossible to get out of it once you've been convicted. I have right now a mom who is emailing me about post-conviction issues for her son, and he's already done 20 years.
Wow.
So, and she's still fighting for her child, right? So and there's very little that I can do at this point. Right.
Once a jury has decided the verdict, or a judge, whoever it is, it's pretty tough to overcome that.
Yep, it is. So, yeah. But another misconception about public defenders, which, just yesterday, today's Saturday, Friday, I was talking to someone and she gave me a compliment, and her compliment was that often the stereotype is that people who work in public defense, the attorneys, come in and they're just disheveled. And she said,
well, we know you're not disheveled, baby.
She said, you were the one who came in and had it together, and you made me feel like I could work in public defense and not be the stereotype. And I said, well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, shout out to all my public defenders out there, all my friends and colleagues that I worked with in the past and will work with in the future. They're awesome on the federal level, on the state level. It's the same thing. And if I can do nothing else but promote the awesomeness of the public defender's office, I'm glad to do so, because
we appreciate it. We need it.
Yeah, and it's something that I think, for people who are students, particularly law students, who want to get trial experience.
Absolutely.
It's the number one place that you can do, especially people who want to do defense work. I mean, even prosecutory work. I was a prosecutor. I had great trial work, but I know. I'm sorry. That was a while ago, a long time ago. But I'm just be honest with you. Being in the courtroom, those are the only two ways that you're going to be in the courtroom on a consistent basis. Is in criminal law, you're going to be on either side. You're going to be in courtroom all the time. But what the prosecution does not have, we have other, concerns when I was in that office as far as dealing with police officers and stuff like that. And managing personalities, but it's the human element.
Managing personalities.
That the
mainly their own.
Right.
Prosecutors.
Look, let me just say for the record, I'm a defense attorney through and through.
Yeah,
okay?
you felt free when you got out that prosecutor's office, boy.
I sure did. I was for 5 years. I worked there, and the
selling your soul.
15 plus have been on the defense side,
the right side of the table.
And it is the right side of the table. But I have a lot of respect for prosecutors, and just for black prosecutors as well. We need to have diversity on all levels. I know you're a little jaded, but
that's the husher. That's me hushing that out. Absolutely not. I 150% disagree.
You don't believe that you should be diversity on all sides?
Let me tell you why. Yeah, diversity is great
Marguerite,
everywhere.
I was a fair prosecutor.
No such thing.
I was.
No such thing. The entire system is built to not be fair. So you, as an individual, can be whatever you want, but you work within a system that is intended to do exactly what it's doing. Now, let me tell you why the notion of progressive prosecution,
I didn't say it was
fair
progressive
prosecution, I'm going to become a prosecutor because I will wield the power in the right way, and all of the things that they're taught even at our great institution, Howard University School of Law, HU, is this idea that I'm going to go and be a prosecutor and I am going to look at cases in a way and not prosecute the ones that shouldn't be prosecuted. Let me tell you something, that's not going to happen.
Well, you don't have that discretion as much as you think.
You don't have that discretion.
But I had a lot of discretion in my day.
Yeah, but also you prosecutors.
But I agree with you, largely agree with you.
The top prosecutor is an elected position, and so they will always be serving their constituents, and their constituents will always have this belief that the way to public safety is to put everybody in jail, put all the bad people in jail. Nobody ever talks about the fact that 95% of them are gonna get out. So then what are you gonna do? After you lock these people away, disenfranchise them, have not solved any problem, and then put them right back in the community.
It's a vicious
then what
cycle.
happens then? It's a vicious cycle, and it's intended to do exactly what it's doing. So you wanna be a prosecutor? Go for it. You're not gonna change anything. I'll stand by it. Meet me at Starbucks. We can debate it all day, every day.
It's a debate to be had, because I know and again, it also depends. You talk about being elected official. It also depends on who is running whatever office you're in. As far as, don't look at me like that. I'm being serious.
Who was running the office when you were in it? Name one case. Name one instance where you really felt like you brought change.
This is my show. You don't come out on my show.
I'm sorry. Okay, I take it back.
I almost lost my job, in all seriousness, because there was a belief, and it actually wasn't true at the time, that I was being too lenient on the cases that I was prosecuting, and that it was a traumatic experience. And I went into being a prosecutor, not because I had any kind of ideological bent, because it was the job that I could get at the time. Mm-hmm. But that experience really was could have changed everything. Mm-hmm. And I was fair, but at this particular time, that supervisor that I had was a racist guy, and accused me of being too liberal on the quote unquote other black folk. And
that was the time where they were prosecuting marijuana hard, right? Like, you remember,
Yeah, I didn't get too many marijuana cases as I recall, that I remember, but yeah, they were prosecuting marijuana. I mean, Baltimore has a very interesting. The Wire, right, is the whole series built on the inner workings of the criminal justice system there. It's a very unique place for sure.
It is. And
it's still going on today. That hasn't changed.
And I go hard now as a public defender.
You are going hard. I like it though. Go hard.
But in all fairness, I did apply to be a prosecutor, and I did not. I applied to be a law clerk in the prosecutor's office, and this was after I graduated law school, but before I was barred. And I remember they told me I was overqualified, and I thought, who tells somebody they're overqualified to do a job that I'm agreeing to do? It just felt like a crock. And at the time I was like, okay, I'm overqualified. I don't hear that much, but I look back and think that was just God keeping me from something that I didn't need to be a part of.
You surely did not need to be a prosecutor, boy. You would have lasted long.
I wouldn't have lasted long at all.
Well, you know what? I don't think we could end on a better note, knowing your passion around public defense and your continued commitment to your clients. I want to thank you for coming on, but don't go anywhere, because we're going to have to talk about this music thing in a minute.
Okay.
But this part of our interview is wrapping up. You're my sister. I love you. I
love you too.
Even though I'm going to edit the part about when you talked about $50 a case. That's not true.
Why? It is true. I'm gonna go find the.
That didn't happen.
I'm gonna find how you were paying me.
If you ever want to work at the law office of Alfred Guillaume, we pay well.
Oh yeah, now they do. Look, in all fairness, I don't think that you were doing a lot of cases from the public defender's office.
I was not balling out of control.
So you weren't getting paid, nearly what you should have been getting paid.
I was not balling out of control at the time.
So it was relative to
my station at that time.
And honestly, Alfred, didn't matter because but for that experience, but for that opportunity, I probably wouldn't be where I was. So whether you paid me $50, $5, or $500, you played a very integral part in my success. So I will always thank you for that.
I appreciate that, and I'm glad you came on. And I don't want you to leave yet, because if you've seen this table on our video podcast of all these records that are on this table, you're not going to want to miss this next part of this conversation. So peace, love, and hair grease until a few minutes from now. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Lawyers Hip Hop Happy Hour. Please subscribe to this podcast. It's available everywhere, including Apple, Spotify, and Amazon. New episodes are released on the 12th of each month, and if you'd like to see the video version of any interview, they can be found on my YouTube page at the Lawyers Hip Hop Happy Hour. Thank you for your support, and I'll catch you on the B-side.